so much, Mandy, for being here with me today. So, for those that don't know, can you tell me and everybody else a bit about the Dolphin Research Institute and what its purpose is?
Sure. So the Dolphin Research Institute is a not-for-profit conservation organisation. That's a bit of a mouthful. And our primary goal is to protect the marine species of Victoria, and we're particularly focused around Port Phillip Bay and Western Port, as we're based here in the Melbourne region. We do that by research, so we monitor the dolphin populations that are resident here in Port Phillip Bay and Western Port, and we also look at the whales that come through. At the moment, the humpback whales are coming through on their annual migration, so we've got the Two Bays Whale Project. So we identify individuals in all three groups, in the common dolphins, the bottlenose dolphins, and humpbacks. And that helps us to keep an eye on the population and sort of estimate how well they're doing and how, how they're thriving. And then my side, which is I'm responsible for the education. So that's about, first of all, teaching as many Victorians as possible about what we have here, because many people don't realize that the marine species in Victoria is about 90% unique. So you will not find it anywhere else in the world, so it's good to know what we have, and it's good to appreciate it. And then obviously the other side to that is that I teach them about how they're at risk, what threatens them from climate change, pollution, and how, more importantly, how we can actually change our behavior. So there are goals to achieve the protection that we can through outreach, through education and research, and hopefully also influencing government decisions, which is not always that easy to do.
No, not at all. So what is your specific role within the organisation?
So I run the education side, and I'm now almost 10 years in the job. And so there's two parts to that. So the education programs are schools, kinders, or groups like Rotary and Probus that will book a session with us, and that can be anything from an hour talk in our centre in Hastings to an hour and a half rock pool ramble to a full day's program where we customise to what the school or group need. And that's obviously about just, teaching people, sharing experiences and getting the message out. The other half, and probably the one that I'm most deeply invested in and most proud of, is the ambassador program. So this is where we're actually working with, hopefully, the environmental leaders of the future. They are grade 5-6 students at primary. They are environmental captains at school. They're usually a small number, anywhere between 4 and 8 generally. And we take them out every term and show them a different aspect of the environment and what affects it, and particularly human behaviour. More importantly, what can they take back to school for their schools to change, to improve things for the marine environment in particular, which is the one we're most concerned with. But of course, whatever you do is going to have a benefit on every single environment. And we have 100 schools in this program, with something like 550 ambassadors. And so that's it's amazing. And it's one of the things that really keeps me going. There are some days where my optimism, my positivity wavers a little, because I feel like, am I really making a difference? Most of the time I feel like I am, and then some days I doubt myself, and that's probably because I watch too much news and feel a little bit despondent. But these kids, I can see, I can see where this is going. If we just can wait a couple more years for them to get into high school and to really be able to, make their voices heard, we're going to see a big change. And I'm trying to give them the skills and the confidence to make their voice heard now in primary school. And I want to hear them roar, basically, because, they are our future, and it is all about their future.
So the world is facing an environmental crisis. What do you say to those who are apathetic about this?
Oh, gosh. it's okay to sometimes feel apathetic. As I said before, sometimes I even feel a little bit down, but immerse yourself in all of the stories that are out there of people doing great things and having success. There are, it's the bad news always gets the press, I think. So when you start to hear of some, things that are going on, like laws are being changed, we're losing species, politicians are trying to make things difficult. They're the ones that grab the headlines because obviously people are pretty upset about it. And when you actually look under the surface, you'll find there's a lot of really good stuff going on and a lot of very passionate people.
Yeah.
So don't think that the bad news is all there is. It's just the most dramatic and the ones that really, get the headlines. And if you are having a bad day, take a day off. Walk away from it, reset, and come back the next day going, okay, I can do this, because we're not alone. There's many people who are far more well-known and deeply involved in conservation than I am, who still manage to get up every day. One of my inspirations is David Attenborough. He's 94 and he's still, to this day, knows there's a reason to get up in the morning and to fight for this planet. And if he can do it after 94 years alive, then pretty sure that I can do it too. So, I take inspiration from other people around me.
Absolutely. So what is the one thing you wish everyone could know about the marine environment?
That it is the key to our survival on this planet. If we don't have a healthy marine environment, we don't have a healthy planet, full stop. If it gives us 50% of our oxygen and it takes an awful lot of our carbon dioxide. So, to quote a wonderful oceanographer called Dr. Sylvia Earle, we need to care and protect about the oceans as though our lives depend upon it, because they do, basically. So if everyone could take that away, I think people would see things very differently. And, no ocean, no planet, no argument.
What has become your most treasured memory in your time working with dolphins?
Wow. Okay. I guess I'm incredibly lucky as part of the program with the ambassadors, is that we actually take them out on one of the dolphin swim boats. And so I get to see the dolphins in their natural environment, and I get to be in the water with them. And I was going to say that one of the swims that I did with the dolphins was my most treasured memory, but I suddenly remembered about 4 years ago, I'd been on the boat that day and we had heard from the Sea Road ferries that there were actually orca in the bay. I've never seen orca before, and for those of you who don't know what orca is, they're killer whales, which are actually our largest dolphins. Some of them are up to 10 meters long.
Wow.
And they first reported come through about 7 o'clock in the morning, and we were on the boat all day, and I got home about 4 o'clock. Thought there's no way they're still going to be around, but my partner said, let's go and see, check out the dolphins. We'll go out in the kayak, and the dolphins hang out at a local spot, so we fully expected to see them. So out we went, and the dolphins were there, but as we got out to the spot, they left, and they left really quickly.
Yeah.
And we thought, oh, okay. And then suddenly this enormous 2-meter dorsal fin just appeared out of the water with 2 smaller fins, and we realized that the orca were still in the bay, and they were now literally about 100 meters from our kayak.
Wow.
And I sat in that kayak for about an hour watching these orca just cruise up and down Port Phillip Bay. And I honestly, I can remember it like it was yesterday. And it's the first time I've ever felt really small and a little bit nervous. I'm usually a pretty confident person in the water and nothing much phases me. But I have to admit, I got really good at paddling backwards quite quickly. And I thought they were getting a bit too close to me. But that's probably one of the best memories I have. And when we'd finished, when they left, we got out of the kayak and we drove down to Sorrento Pier and just stood on the pier and watched them for another hour, and they came so close. So that's probably my all-time highlight. And I think probably I wouldn't have known about them if I wasn't working in this job and didn't know where the Dolphin Zone wasn't going out to sort of see them in their normal environment. So yeah, it's pretty special.
From your perspective, is the health of Western Port and Port Phillip Bay marine environment in good condition?
Yes, it's definitely in the best condition it's been for the last 50 years. Is it perfect? Definitely not. Can we do better? Always. And always new generations coming through that we need to, keep on top of reminding them. I think the fact that we have such a diverse and healthy marine species is a good indicator. But I also know that marine species can tolerate stuff that perhaps they shouldn't be tolerating. So I think there's always work to do. And we're certainly not where we should be, but I think it's going in the right direction. And there's a lot of people who care about it and doing everything they can to make it a healthy environment.
Absolutely. So I have one more question. So in your opinion, what does environmental leadership mean?
Do as I do, not do as I say, I think. Leadership, I think, is not necessarily from the front. It's about having, the courage to do things that are difficult, and hopefully people will follow you because they see the importance of what you're doing. So that's what I try and do. I try and show people why it's such an important thing to protect the marine environment, but I also try and, just say that this is what I do. And it's about being kind as well. It's about not being judgmental. Certainly not on a person-to-person level. I think there's room for being judgmental when you're talking about perhaps businesses or organizations that ought to know better.
Yeah.
But people have different reasons for the decisions that they make, and it's about being kind and getting them to want to change rather than forcing it on them. So leadership for me is not about directing and ordering. It's about empowering people to want to take the actions that you yourself are taking.
Yeah, awesome. So thank you for doing this interview with me. I appreciate it.
Absolute pleasure, Michaela. Always lovely to talk to you.